Yo, what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's STORMYBMAN, and I am back welcoming you to the post-fight show with STORMYBMAN as we come together on this Saturday. This is July 24th, 2021, and we are here to talk some boxing. We did have a heavyweight dust up today, but it wasn't the one that we had been looking forward to, unfortunately. But yet and still, they brought some action, and we are here to talk about it. And let me welcome my co-host in here, Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, who gave a great call. I was bringing up the rear because I was running a little bit behind on the broadcast, but I was able to hear everything live and excitingly in exciting fashion due to Reggie's call on the action. What's going on with you, Reggie? How you doing, bro?
Doing good, OG. How's it going?
Oh, it's going very well. And again, as you said, shout out to L-Dub for providing us a means of being able to check the action out on this event for this evening. This was a card that featured 6 fights. Although I was tuned in and listening, I was kind of moving about and everything, but I heard everything that went down and know of the results of the matches that took place prior to the main event. But we're not going to focus on those. Those were a bunch of guys, Reggie, that we don't really know. And not to sound like I'm trying to act as if they're not significant, I do want to stress that the fight that was significant was the main event on this particular card, and that's what we'll talk about this evening. So this won't be an extended post-fight as we have done, but we will talk in detail about the main event that you just saw. Going into this fight, Reggie, we had covered last night on the Friday night chop session about our thoughts of how it was going to turn out, and surprisingly it almost played to script. So Joe Joyce, the Juggernaut, came into this fight off of a very good win over young promising heavyweight Danny Dubois, and everyone was kind of excited to see, what wrinkles Joyce would come into this fight with. And TAKAM, even though he's a muscle-bound guy, for 40 years old, the man is in tremendous shape. He's got good genes, but I never thought that he was the biggest of punchers. Just because a guy is really muscular and everything doesn't always mean that he has pop. Now, definitely he has heavyweight pop on his punches, but he is not like a KO artist or anything like that. Kind of a mid-level heavyweight, a guy that can give you some rounds and give you competition. But as we saw this evening, when you have a greater force of nature, such be the Juggernaut, then you end with the results of what we saw this evening. So come on in with your early thoughts about what you just called, Reggie, and how you saw this action playing out.
Yeah, it almost played like how I thought it would. I didn't see Carlos Takam really having a chance against this guy. Just think this dude is just too big, too strong, and it's like you were bringing up about Takam having, from standpoint of physique, you can see looks strong, cut up, ripped up, but as far as and just because you look that way doesn't translate into your ability to drive powerful. The ability to drive powerful punches, and he's just not there with these sides of heavyweights, in my opinion. I don't think he had anything that was going to back up Joe Joyce tonight, but Joe Joyce said he did hit him with some big shots because the guy pulls shots from the back of the ground to wing them off on Joe Joyce, and they'll land, but that guy kept walking forward. It's just nothing Takam was going to be able to deliver. The jab was not there. It was just hooks that were his only punches, as he kind of got walked by a jab from Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce is very active. I thought that would be a problem. He's rangy, but then he started to step on the inside. And when he started to step on the inside, that began to wane at TAKAM. He hit TAKAM with one punch to the body, man. That was a real significant shot that I thought really depleted TAKAM. And the referee at that moment, this referee is doing some real stupid stuff, man, where he stepped in for some reason. I don't know, it was the reason he stepped in there, and he kind of delayed the moment in the fight. And Joe Joyce never followed up after ripping TAKAM to the body like that. But he just started winging off his punches. TAKAM began to kind of lean it over after that body shot. He started leaning forward, trying to wrap around. He started getting hit with uppercuts. And then you also had Joe Joyce starting to lean on the back of his neck. And that started to put a lot up on him. But Joe Joyce is slow as people say. Is the guy ain't as slow as people make him out to be. The punches come off looking that way, but he can easily let off 100 punches in a round and land a significant amount of them. And a fighter taking that type of pounding type punishment from a guy like that is bound to wear you. It's bound to take something out of you. And that's what he was starting to slowly do to TAKAM. And then also as that round where he finished TAKAM off, he came out with a quick combination. He showed different speed variations in his punch because he got off a very quick combination. And the combination was a perfectly put out combination. Two straight, straight left. I mean, not straight lefts, but the nice 1-2 straight down the middle, short left hook, rocked TAKAM. And then you start going in there, letting off a series of punches, nonstop delivery of punches. And for the referee to step in there, I'm like, referee, come in here, give the 8 count. Stop this, man. This dude's just taking punishment. Like, go in there, give the guy standing 8 count. This referee jumps in there to stop the fight. I thought it was a premature stoppage, but it was going to be the same result regardless of them giving them that 8 count. He's just bound to just get knocked out. He had nothing to bring to Joe Joyce. He was fading at that moment, starting to see the fatigue fade in, starting to see the damage start to fade in. And it was even at one point in the fight, kind of early in the fight, this is how much you got to give to get this big dude, Joe Joyce. It ain't even that he backed him up, but just to try to give off something that you want to do to make this guy think about moving forward. He had TAKAM over there breathing hard. TAKAM was in that corner breathing very hard, and I think it might have been in the little intermission between round 3 going into 4. It might have been earlier than that, but it just shows how much you got to give to be in a fight against this guy. And on top of him being nonstop moving forward, letting punches go, his cardio is on point. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I stated last night that, I talked about the height difference between the two. TAKAM is probably closer to 6 foot tall. Joyce is 6'6", and he was going to be punching down on this guy. Now, punching straight out and punching down are two of the most effective means of landing shots in a boxing match. Punching upward, your shots can lose steam and on the trajectory and everything. So it's like you actually have to work harder when you punch up at a target. And I noticed early on that after receiving a few of those jabs early on from Joyce, TAKAM decided to start trying to wing the overhand rights. He was looping them and hooking them. And had I worked TAKAM's corner, that would have not been the way I would have had him attack Joyce. I would have had him try to anticipate the jab of Joyce, and as Joyce would get the jab off, he'd have to slip either left or right and shoot his own jab to Joyce's solar plexus and counter right hands to Joyce's chest and solar plexus. The reason that you want to do that is you want to change the height of the man who has the height and reach advantage. What happens is the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So if you're throwing those shots in that manner, you could get a better result as the fight wears on. See, what happens is as the fight goes on, Joyce's hands will come down a little more, and because you've been tagging the body, definitely the hands would be looking to protect the body cavity. So later in the fight, you throw the overhand right and the looping right. But there was a sign of desperation. And remember, when you're a big muscular guy like TAKAM is, and you start winging those shots like that early, you get winded. You get depleted. You get depleted. And it didn't help that Joyce had touched him to the body a few times as well, with a couple of left hooks to the body, a couple of rights to the body, right under the elbow area. So it's like TAKAM was on borrowed time. And see, this is what we talk about when we speak on ring IQ. Ring IQ is so important. However, you see very few of these modern day fighters utilize it, because it can be the difference in you staying in a safe place, staying in a fight and on top of an opponent, and also getting you to a later point of the fight. Because I don't care what anyone says, most guys go in there today to knock the other guy out. I don't care what they say. They'll traditionally say what they're supposed to state and say, you don't go looking for a knockout, you let it come. No, these guys be going out there looking for the knockouts. You could tell by the way they fight. And what happens is, when they don't get the result that they thought they could get early on, they don't have a plan B. And when you don't have a plan B, what begins to settle in is doubt. And once doubt creeps in, then the activity slows down. And next thing you know, a guy is looking for a way out or looking for a place to lay down in the ring. So now the referee, yes, the referee could have jumped in and issued a standing 8 count, which, based on what's been happening in the sport, what happened to the other fight that was supposed to be on this same night, maybe they should have done that to kind of extend the action, to kind of like give TAKAM a chance, But it was a foregone conclusion, just a matter of time. And because he wasn't tactically doing the things that he should have been doing, his depletion wasn't going to taper off to where he would have a chance to come back with a fatiguing Joe Joyce. So, the ref was terrible. He was terrible. He kind of blew that. But I also would question, and I didn't see the rules that were the international rules for over there, because sometimes maybe a standing 8 isn't a part of what they do over there. I hadn't seen that, and I didn't check for that. My man Watcher, salute to Watcher, he's out there in the chat somewhere. I'd like to know, was that a part of the rules before the start of the fight, that a fighter can't be saved until the final bell? If that be the case, then definitely the ref could have opted to step in and issue a standing 8, make a good assessment of TAKAM, and then pick the fight up from that point. But I don't have the answer to that, and I would really like to know. If someone out there from the UK is listening or catches this, you can kind of write it in the chat so we can follow up on that. But Joyce, as you stated, Reggie, is definitely a force of nature, and he comes forward. He's a hard customer to put on his back foot or whatever. And the thing that I think that would make Joyce take back steps or whatever is somebody who's capable of boxing the hell out of him, making him miss, giving him angles, firing on him, scoring, and getting out of the way. And he's having a hard time touching the other guy. See, he knows he's a physical guy. He knows that he could take a decent shot. But when you're taking like 3, 4, 5 of them, and the guy ain't there for your counter or what you're trying to do, again, doubt builds up in the psyche. And that can play games on you more than the punches that a person lands on you. Those are my opening thoughts on the fight, Reggie, and we can talk about it a little more in depth and detail. Oh, and by the way, when he came into the ring with that mask on his head, that is the mask or the helmet of the Juggernaut, the comic book character from the Marvel Comics. We saw him in the second Deadpool movie. Toward the end of the film, the Juggernaut was in there, and that's the helmet that the Juggernaut comic book character, Marvel comic book character, wears. So that's what when he came out with it on, I laughed immediately. I said, oh, he's wearing the Juggernaut helmet. And the Juggernaut in the comic books is a real huge character, almost like the Rhino in the Spider-Man comics. He's a big, imposing guy, not quite as big as the Hulk, but definitely bigger than the average guy. Therefore, his helmet is like really large, and he runs into things. Once his superpower as a mutant is once he gets a good head of steam going, he can't be stopped. So great nickname for Joe Joyce, because he is definitely in boxing a example or exemplification of the Juggernaut, and he showed it once again this evening. But yeah, those are my opening remarks on that, Reggie. Excuse me.
Yeah, I don't have too much to really feed off the fight except that. But going forward with Joe Joyce, I think Joyce is a problem for every single heavyweight that is out there. I think he is a definite problem for every heavyweight that is out there. He's a guy kind of being in the shadows of things, but I think that's starting to kind of slowly place light upon this dude. And Frank Warren and him may have to open the door for him to let a little bit more light shine on him. There's folks looking for this fight, so there's definitely an American interest in him, an international interest in him as well. He can't just be exposed to that domestic market, and I think Frank Warren needs to wake the hell up from that. If anything, he probably should have been on that Deontay Wilder card along with Fury, if Frank Warren will wake the hell up. But these other heavyweights may need to pay notice to this guy out here and studying this dude, because you're going to have to figure out something to do in a fight. And you have to put in that work in that camp. And I think he gives Tyson Fury problems. He gives Deontay Wilder problems. He gives, who else is up there at the top? He gives Anthony Joshua definite problems. I think the
division overall. The division overall. You know what he's like? You know what he's like, Reggie? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just kind of wanted to get this out there. He reminds me of what Ray Mercer was during his era. Ray Mercer was a tough out. He could punch. He later learned to box a lot better, but earlier in his career, before he fought Larry Holmes, Ray Mercer was a slugger who looked to get you in there, get you in exchanges, and overpower you. And he had the ability to absorb punishment at the heavyweight division that the average guy, we talk about Evander Holyfield's chin being very good. Ray Mercer's chin was better than Evander Holyfield's. You hardly ever can recall seeing Ray get hit with a shot and wobbling or whatever. I saw Evander get hit with something and show a reaction to it. Never did I see Ray Mercer show a reaction to anything. And even when he lost to Vladimir Klitschko, when he got dropped in that fight and he laid there on the canvas, that was more due to him like not being in shape, and he kind of took that fight as a payday and everything. He didn't go into that fight trying to beat Vladimir. And it's interesting because had he gone in with that old fire that he used to have, he would have broken Klitschko's will, because it turned out that Klitschko was not the toughest guy around. But of course, that was much later in his career, and Ray was 40 plus when he fought Klitschko. Hell, he was pushing 40 almost when he fought Tommy Morrison. They had lied about his age and everything. Ray was a little bit older than they said. But what a guy. And he took your guy, Lennox Lewis's best shots right on the button. And had he gone into that fight in better shape, he could have possibly outpointed Lewis in that fight, because the fight, if you remember, was a split decision win for Lewis. But Ray Mercer had come in just a little bit out of shape. He didn't have enough in the tank to turn it up at times. You know, he got that success in his career, and he kind of just tapered off. I think when he made his first couple of million, he was content with that. He didn't really have that drive. But his loss to Larry Holmes taught him about boxing and being able to use the jab. Because when we saw Ray Mercer come back after the Larry Holmes defeat, he began to use that left jab that we never saw from him earlier, you know, in fights. And he became a much better fighter fighting behind that jab. And he had a punishing jab, too. So I just wanted to say that. And Juggernaut is a lot similar, but I think he has a better ring IQ than Mercer had, because he knows what his bread and butter is, and he doesn't deviate. And if you notice, technical wise, in this fight tonight, he kept his hands up, Reggie, and he was jabbing from the chin. You know what I mean? Which that always makes a difference. When you're jabbing from the chin with your hands up in the proper position, you're closing the gap on the opponent's opportunities. And he was able to do that, and it made a difference in the fight. He wasn't such a open door for TAKAM. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say about it. And also mentioning who he would give trouble to. Practically everybody in the heavyweight division, because of his height, because of his reach and his jab that he has, because he does work off of the jab. And you stated earlier in your broadcast also that his conditioning is pretty good. I mean, he's conditioned to be in a fight, you know, and he'll probably wear the opponent down more than the opponent will wear him down. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of thing that you look for when you're looking at these heavyweights who have the best to offer. And definitely he had a tremendous amount to offer, the Juggernaut. So, you know, those are the things. And guys like Wilder, you know, if Wilder can't box the way he needs to box and get out of the way of those shots or whatever, he'll walk him down. He'll walk him down. And it won't be a single shot, I don't think, from Wilder that get him. It would have to take a succession of shots. But do you want to be there for him to hit you back? Because he's heavy-handed and he can get to you. So it's a good fight. And I definitely want to see him in there with AJ, because both of them being somewhat European robotic in that sense, it's like, who's gonna get the edge over the other? But I think it would be Joyce at the end of the day, because I don't think that AJ is that tough. You know, he has some ability and everything, but he's not the toughest guy. And the Juggernaut is a tough customer, man. He can wait you out. You know what I mean? And when he waits you out, you get tired and fatigued and everything, and it's like you ready for it to be all over with, and then he just starting to get going. No, don't like that. And I'll tell you who will definitely stay away from him: Dillian White. Dillian White ain't gonna go nowhere near the Juggernaut. You can believe that, bro. You can believe that. So, but yeah, those are some thoughts I had on that.
Yeah, I want to touch on him and AJ. Somebody asked that question during the call. I don't know if the person said that AJ will beat him, and I'm like, nah, I don't see it working that way against Joe Joyce. I think one of the things lacking as far as attributes for Anthony Joshua is mentally. And I think when mental pressure applies to this guy, you begin to see him break. You've seen it in multiple fights. Only because him being such huge favorites is the only thing that kind of shaved the edge off of what he dealt with mentally. And that was Carlos TAKAM applied a lot of that. He got assistance from a ref. Joseph Parker applied that. And as well as the pressure he faced coming over here to America. And Andrew Ruiz was able to apply it on him. Joe Joyce is a guy who's going to constantly come at Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua will deliver shots. Got to give him that. Joe Joyce will take them right on the chin and continuously walk forward. What does that do to Anthony Joshua? And then for Joshua to take punches from this big power punching heavyweight who continuously throws shots. Like I said, this guy can let off 100 shots in a round, and people speak about him being slow. I don't think he's as slow as people state he is. I just think from the way that he's built, the way that he looks, it makes the punches look a little slower because people ain't getting out the way of him. And to be able to throw that many shots in 3 minutes, he ain't that slow. But even if he is that slow, people aren't getting out the way of the punches. They're landing at a pretty good percentage. And with him coming forward, delivering these big shots, AJ getting off shots, and having to try to run around the ring, and this guy can easily move as well with AJ. He's athletically gifted. He will break AJ in a fight, and it'll be crushing. And I think that's one. Tyson Fury will be pressed by this guy. Tyson Fury doesn't have the punching power to really keep this guy off of him. He'll land shots. Joe Joyce will eat him and continuously come at him. He's about as equal in height as Tyson Fury. He's as physically dominant as far as laying on people, wrestling and moving them out the way. He'll make a fight physical as hell for Tyson Fury if he wanted to take it there. He'll punch to the body. He mixes his punches up very well, and his ability to work off that jab, he'll give them hell. And even against Wilder will definitely have to utilize what he's working on in there with Malik Scott to try to box this guy. But this dude will walk straight at Deontay Wilder. I don't think he'll take Deontay Wilder's right hand better than any other opponent he's been in here with. And then this guy's activity constantly coming at him. I think boxing will really have to play out for a while. This dude is a threat for all these dudes out here. And I think he's one of the heavyweights to watch out for. But I want to see even the one kid I looked at in heavyweight make his way back in Daniel Dubois. But Joe Joyce is about to be hell in this heavyweight division, man.
Yeah, it's something. And a lot of people don't want to give him his credit. You know, it's funny. You got folks that want to put someone in there defeating him and stuff like that. But I'll tell you something, man. If you watch fighters and you see them do what they do in the ring and you know what you're looking at, Joyce is for real. And as Reggie stated, he may give the appearance of being slow, but he's quick. And because he's a big man, he's a massive man, it looks slow to you. But try to get out of his way, being in the ring in there, and he getting those shots off against you. He's not a slow guy, not in the least. And that's the impression it's given. You know how when you see Godzilla, right, and he's moving in films, you know how they always show him moving real slow? But he's actually not moving slow, but he's such a massive creature that he's covering a span of land, you know, with each and every step. He's every few miles down the road. You know what I mean? But we get the impression because he's so big and massive, it's like, oh, he's so slow. Nah, it's the same. Even if you're a middleweight and you're in there with Joyce, he might not be able to catch you with combinations, but his quickness will be something that'll surprise you because you won't necessarily see what's coming. You know what I mean? And that's something to think about. Salute to my man, Laws D, Punch Out TV out there in that super chat. He says, what's up, Stormy, my Joe Joyce brother? And salute OG and Reggie Owens. Salute to you, Laws, and thanks for your donation to the channel and the show, man. Appreciate you. Laws D knows that I've been out there talking positive about Joe Joyce for a long time, man. It's funny because, you know, people talk about him sleeping AJ, and I think that was PGH Big Dog. Salute to PGH out there. AJ sleeping him, rather. No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen because, like the old saying, you got to bring it to get it. Whoever's going to be in there with him is going to have to get at him. And because he is a force of nature, it's like you're going to give him the opportunity. Okay? And I see Coach Chris out there too. He says, nah, he's slow as hell. Okay, Coach Chris, but he's getting these results, ain't he? That can't be denied. And Danny Dubois, who's younger, fresher, couldn't get out the way of that jab. So if the jab was so slow, it wouldn't have had a chance to do the damage that it did on his eye, would it? Now, And Bryant Bye-Bye Jennings, same thing. Sometimes people just don't want to believe in something just because they don't like it or it's not of their ilk or whatever. But hey, so be it, man. There were many people that didn't like Lennox Lewis, okay? But all he did was just keep winning and beating all their favorite American heavyweights. And next thing you know, he retires the undisputed champion of the world. And all the other guys got their butts kicked, including Mike Tyson, and got their butts kicked pretty good by, this guy who talked with a British accent and all of that, but he could fight, and he kicked people in they behind, and they didn't like it. I liked it. I liked Lennox Lewis. I didn't talk against him like that. I could see his talent way before he got to where he was, and then after he got with Emmanuel Stewart, it was a wrap. So there you have it, man. It's like there are people who you're just not gonna like for whatever reason, but don't try to pull them down because you want someone else to be up. You know what I mean? We talk about this all the time in boxing, man. There are some people that deserve to be where they are, regardless of who you like or don't like. And it's going to take a man to beat him in the ring to displace that. Look at the Castano and Mel Charlo fight that took place a couple weeks ago. People didn't want to give Castano no credit whatsoever. But I had said, I studied up. I watched about 4 of his fights. I had heard his name, but, I remember he fought Lara, but I filed that in my memory bank as like just another fight, But I went back and I'm like, this guy actually beat Lara. He didn't get that decision. It was a draw. But I'm looking at it, I say, and then they start telling me of who he boxed in the amateurs. He fought Earl Spence in the amateurs and beat him. I'm like, okay, this guy can fight. That's all you got to tell me. I don't have to see too much more. I just got to watch what he does. And because, people, they love Mel. They want to be from his state and all of that and give support, but don't want to give the other guy credit for being good. It's a reason why just the two of them got the belts. So it's like you could get mad and all of that, but these people going to keep beating the guys you love because of stubbornness. It's like, oh, I just don't want to believe it. Well, go to the back and we'll watch him while we sit up in the front row seats because he's putting on the show every night. That's the way it is, man. That's the way it is. And people, listen, then years later after they retire, like they say about Lennox now, oh, Lennox was an all-time great. Where were you guys when Lennox was doing it? Where the guys at when he was doing his thing? You ain't see nobody. So it's like, hey, man, it is what it is. But again, we can be out here and talk about it, but there will always be examples to show you exactly what I'm talking about. And I'll be back to mentioning it again and make you even more mad. I just ask that you smash the like button, and come back for some more, because there's going to be more. You just heard me say Wilder will have some trouble with Joe Joyce. Does that mean I hate Wilder and I'm anti-Wilder and all of that? Absolutely not. Somebody said he's like Brazil. What? Nah. He's nothing like Brazil. Nothing like Brazil. I don't know what happened to that super chat sticker up there, Reggie. It's kind of frozen. I can't get it off the screen, but sorry about that. But you got anything to say on that?
Yeah, back with what you're saying, even like correlating into today's times with these type of fans who count out certain fighters. And I remember watching Lennox Lewis as a young kid. Like I said, that's my favorite fighter. And when I started recognizing what Lennox was, and I remember when I had a cousin who used to gamble come to the house, and he looking for this bet he put in on this British fighter. He's like, man, this is a gifted British fighter that beat Riddick out the Olympics. He trying to see if he won a fight. And when I'm watching it, like, man, this dude can scrap. So I kind of follow Lennox from that moment forward. But it was always about Mike Tyson back during this time period. And Mike Tyson this, and that's all everybody you hear on the streets when they talk boxing. Mike Tyson, Mike Tyson, Mike Tyson. And I'm watching this British cat come in here who had amazing abilities and can scrap. And I'm looking like, this is who I'm following right here. And a lot, I just didn't buy into a lot when it related to Tyson. You know, Tyson was as great as he was. And I can kind of see the biases that comes from people within this country. You see it in all sports. There's biases that are inherent to us, but kind of it's kind of a humanistic thing. People find biases. Me, I try to clear myself of biases. I clear myself of favoritisms, and I just try to be as real as can be. We all lie. We lie to ourselves. I try to eliminate that ish from my dang system. And I recognize when I see something in someone, even if they ain't my favorite fighter, you could be a problem. And even going in that Castano fight, I like the Charlos. But when assessing that fight, that was going to be a tough fight for Charlo. Ain't none of this make-believe stuff of creating this delusion of, nobody can touch this fighter and he ain't. Nah, there's dudes out here who is bad as the baddest of them. And just because people look a certain way because they get the publicity behind them, they get the televised features that are behind them being their televised, doesn't make them the greatest, doesn't make them the best that are out there. There's folks who are slept on, who we don't see because it's a global damn sport, who can get out here and do damage to folks and catch a lot of people up off guard. But that's my thoughts on that one. Joe Joyce is a problem for everybody out here. And if he was that slow, people will move out the way. And the other thing, you can be slow with the abilities that a lot of these heavyweights have out here. A lot of them aren't athletically gifted. They don't move out the way anything. So Joe Joyce is in a good spot with the speed that he has. And like I say, I don't think he's slow.
Yeah, and I see the guys going back and forth in the chat, you know. I'm going to read a couple of the chats. I'm going to go back up a little bit because we were cooking in on here. But we got, let's see, I'll go back up as high as I can. Sometimes after we've been going a little bit, you can only go so far back. We got, doggone it. This thing just clicked off on me. Okay, I'll just use my phone. Earlier, we had BFTB boxing out there, Loco Sports, Big Homie Coop, and watcher Dwayne Jones out there, Adrian Viet, and DOG 215. 88 Sports Talk, JC, CB Sports TV, Sheldon Holmes, 704 Joe, Benjamin Harrington, D. Hodges, Winston Lee, Trick Noty, Hustler Slim, Bowley is out there, PGH Big Dog, Charmaine Callahan, L-Dub was in the chat as well. And let's see, Simon Bridgman, new channel member, Simon Bridgman. Salute to you as well, bro. Coach Chris, Shepherd King, Laws D, and I'm going to read Coach Chris' comment. He said, Joyce better stay away from Wilder and Ruiz. They are way too fast for him. Man, he'll hit Ruiz on the top of his head, and that'll be the end of it. Laws DC, welcome anytime, bro. Yep, me and Stormy always said Joe Joyce is a problem. He is. I'm telling you, man. You ever see, you know, you when you were in school, there was this one person that just seemed to have all this luck and everything. It's like they just was talented. It's like you just didn't want to give them credit or whatever. And they kept being successful, kept having people on their jock and all of that. Hey, man, it is what it is. You know, life is that way sometimes. L Dub says, Bryant Jennings will rematch Oscar Rivas on September 17th for the vacant WBC Bridger title. Okay. Coach Chris says, Danny Dubois literally stood in front of him and didn't slip, dip, parry, block, nothing. Just got jabbed to death like an idiot. Who fault is that, Coach Chris? That's Joe Joyce's fault. If he was so slow, Dubois could have got out the way, couldn't he? Huh?
Right. What about Brian Jennings and Usyk? They didn't get out the way.
He kept Jennings up against the ropes. And I kept saying, if Jennings want to win this fight in another man's hometown, he got to get off the ropes and show the judges that he's active in the fight. Then you realize he couldn't get off the ropes because that's where Joyce was keeping him. You got to give the guy credit for something, right? So you give him credit for being who he is and what he does. That's all. Now it's like, hey, listen, the guy that used to coach the Patriots, what's his name? Reggie, the football coach.
You was talking about Belichick, the current one?
Bill Belichick. The teams, players, and coaches used to complain at the press conferences about the Patriots running up the score on their teams and stuff. Oh, the game was out of hand and they were still scoring touchdowns. Belichick responded like this. He said, it's y'all's defense responsibility to stop us. And he's right. He's absolutely right. So get better defense and stop saying that kind of stuff, complaining and whining. Do something about it, as they say. Huh? And that's what you got to do. If you're in there with Joe Joyce, you got to go in there and figure out a way to defeat the man. Now, there is a way to defeat him because nobody's invincible. They're not. But these guys with low brow, low IQ, low technical ability and capability and know-how, they ain't going to get it done. You got to be versed. You got to be practiced up, huh? And competed up, because these guys today don't even want to face competition. So how you going to go in a fight with somebody who got a lot more under the hood and expect to be victorious? You lying to yourself. Bottom line. You know? 88 Sports Talk said, go ahead, Reggie. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying absolutely agreeing with you.
Yeah. 88 Sports Talk said, facts. I knew Castano was for reals when I watched him beat Lara. I don't care what nobody says. He beat Lara. Stone Neil Anthony says, TAKAM constantly moves his head in the ring, and yet Joe Joyce was catching it with the jab all night. That man ain't slow, juggernaut. I'm trying to tell these guys, man. Hustler Slim says, a bear looks slow, but try to outrun it. Yep. See, there's other people in here who actually agree when they think about it and you put things together. It's like, that's what it is. Huh? Watcher says, Joyce didn't impress me. Okay, watch it. Lars D said, Lennox Lewis is one of the greatest heavyweights I ever watched. And he says, Watcher is a hater on Joe Joyce. He says, salute, Watcher, bro. Sir Ken is out there and says, Stormy B-Man, salute. Salute to the wrenches and salute to the chat. Smash the like button. Yes, sir. Please smash that like button, people. Reggie and I are bringing you this post-fight show, and we're trying to, keep you engaged with humor as well. Watcher says, Lars, I'm not a hater. Like, that's just untrue. When will Joyce be ready for Ortiz? Or is Abel gonna come back and say he's not ready again? Coach Chris says, my wife walked in and said, who's this lurch looking stiff in the ring with muscled up yo? Okay. All right. He's the winner. That's who he is. Let's see. It jumped up on me. We got a lot of comments in here this evening. Jay Grant is out there, says, what's good, Stormy? Watcher says, Coach Chris, I'm not on the Joyce train. Lost D says, thing is, like Stormy said, people put Joe Joyce down, but he keeps winning. Yeah, you look up and next thing you know, he might be the champ. You know? Coach Chris says, what's up, Watcher? My man is slower than a sloth. Come on, man. He ain't that slow. Lost D says, real talk, OG. Watcher said, it's timing. These fighters aren't smart enough to know. Once Joyce gets put to sleep, I can't wait for the excuses. Watcher, I just hope that you don't lose sleep waiting, bro. Because right now, Joyce is probably in the top 4 in the world. Stone Neil Anthony says, Joe Joyce beat up Bermain Stavern and knocked him out. And Coach Chris says, yo, this guy makes 42-year-old George Foreman look like Hector Camacho. Oh, man. The insults. OG Eric in St. Louis is like, salute Stormy B, salute to you. And Laws D says, uploading my Joe Joyce video. All the best, Stormy OG and Reggie Owens, bro. I'm out. Okay, Laws D. Oh, man. So, Reggie, let's get back to the fight for a quick moment. And I know we don't have a whole lot more to talk about it, but I want to ask you, from your assessment of things, what do you think Carlos Takam could have done better to fare better in this particular fight?
He could have set the shots up better. I think he should have attacked to the body a little bit more. He should have moved around a little bit more, feinted out, punches a little bit more, worked to the jab. He did have a moment in the ring. I'm not sure what punch landed or where he worked that froze Joe Joyce up for the. I think that was probably the only moment in this fight where he froze up the offense of Joe Joyce. And I think him working to the body a little bit more probably could have slowed some things up for him, changed some things for Joe Joyce, but not get too happy because Joe Joyce is a smart fighter. He would have made adjustments. He did. Joe Joyce did start moving around to kind of take that away from Takam. But I think Takam could have utilized the jab a little bit more, stepped around, and then fire off shots. He was throwing too many predictable. He should have took away throwing those predictable hooks because, like you were saying with Joe Joyce, throwing those jabs, keeping the guard high and tight, a lot of those hooks were landing on the side of the gloves and off the side of the wrist. So he wasn't really able to connect with a lot of those punches. But he should have did more to set his punches up and try to find openings. He could have did things to find openings for Joe Joyce and rolled under some punches. But I think the body would have been the best thing for him rather than him reaching up to try to tag this guy in the head. The guy's head too strong. He should have been working the body. That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. He should have the game plan should have been to work from down low, neck down, for the first 4 rounds or so, putting in that good work, staying out of range when you're not punching, because you know Joyce is going to come forward, and then when he gets within range, you have to slip what he's throwing at you and fire back with the good stuff to the body, tie him up. Wait for the ref to break you, then make him reset all over again. That's fatiguing, bro. That's very tiresome. And it requires work, which is something that you have to do in the gym to be prepared for fight night. And if you didn't do that in the gym, you can't expect to do it for longer than moments of a round in the fight. And then after that, you're going to be fatigued and you're going to be out of there. But again, strategy, tactics. This is what gets you through, not brawn, because everybody in the heavyweight division has brawn. They're heavyweights. You know what I mean? Like, and there's different segments of power in the heavyweight division, but let a guy who ain't a heavyweight get hit by one of them guys, and what's going to happen to him? They go on to sleep. Huh? Now, again, these are the X's and O's. Huh? You have to look at it for what it really is. The boxing plug out there, he said, shaking my head, War Chisaurus said, the Joyce fight was pathetic and Joyce lost every round. Well, you know he hating. Terry Smoot Jr. says Joyce was an Olympic silver medalist. He is a top 5 heavyweight. And I said top 4. Who else we got out there? OG Eric says Joyce is slower than a smoking brisket at 225. And Terry Smoot also says Emmitt Smith was slow and and little, right? Didn't they say Emmitt was too little? But he ran up all them yards. He looked like Emmett Payton as far as I'm concerned. Coach Chris says Joyce looked better versus Dubois. Keep in mind, Dubois didn't duck, slip, and move out of the way of a single punch, though. Need to see him versus a Charles Martin or Adam Kalnacki. Ooh, such fierce competition there. Let me tell you about Carlos Takam. He was ducking and dodging and getting hit too.
Hey, he thought he was Joe Frazier for a moment.
He was ducking and dodging right into them missiles.
He
looked like an area of a landfill where bombs was being dropped. Boom, dust coming out of here. Boom, dust coming out of there. He was moving. And then we were complaining that the ref should have given him a standing 8 count. But hey, man, the ref might have wanted to slip him some aspirins after the fight.
The ref said all that ducking ain't working. Just tell you, fool. You ducking in the punches.
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. Bowley says that flukish stoppage, plus the fact that the fight wasn't picked up by ESPN Plus, tells me what they think and have planned for Joyce. Oh, come on, man. And now, y'all, here come the conspiracy theorists. Now, I can see the doggone rifle scopes right now. The conspiracy theorists getting ready to shoot their shots at Joe Joyce, man. This don't make no sense. Yes, it was not Wilder Fury 3, but you know what? It was a heavyweight fight, man. And the fists were flying. And the guy that you don't like or the guy that you love to hate won. And I can't wait to see him again. Against your favorite fighter, you know, whoever that might be. Because he going to be in the fight. And you know what else, Reggie, about Joyce? He's got a great personality, man. He's not a surly dude. He's not a rude dude. He's not an arrogant dude. He's just like a regular Joe, you know, like a dude that you could just be hanging out with. You wouldn't, if you talk to him, you wouldn't think he was a boxer. You'd think he was like maybe played football or basketball or something like that because he's a tall dude. You figure he's some kind of athlete. But you never get the impression that he's a fighter. But when he's in there and he's hitting people, do you see what he do to them? Listen, man, I can appreciate the sport for what it is. Huh? I ain't trying to hate on none of them, but I can be critical. But why am I going to be critical of him tonight when he did what he was supposed to do? If you go back and watch the chop session from last night, we said he's going to wear to calm down and get him up out of there. And that's exactly what he did. And I said he was going to be punching down at the guy. The guy is like 6 inches shorter than him. So he was definitely going to give him, you know, some work. So it is what it is, man. But that, you know, listen, should he come over here and fight some American heavyweights? Yeah, absolutely. And he going to beat them up too. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 704 Joe says, Stormy, you doing the call-in show tomorrow? Yes, sir. Call-in show tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Central. Call-in show. Coach Chris says, Carlos TAKAM is 40 years old. Does 30-minute treadmill walks for cardio. My man is in the last big shot of his life and is blown after 3 rounds. Coach Chris, I love how you trying to create these narratives for Joyce's victory, but how many other fighters in boxing today are cutting corners in training and everything? And you a coach. You should know these things. He ain't the only one. I bet you Joe Joyce ain't doing that. Reggie, did he do his spinning kick after the win?
I didn't even get to see it because I think the one I was on went to a commercial or something.
Okay, because I didn't see it either because I went to start loading up for the to do the post show, and I wanted to see if he did his famous little spinning kick that he does after a victory. Shepherd King says, can we get Big Baby versus Joyce? Both have a total of 22 fights. Listen, man, that's a good fight. Big Baby is a heavy guy, but he's not the most powerful guy, but he's got quick hands. So it would be an interesting battle. And I don't know, we haven't seen, because he hadn't got a chance to get tested, we hadn't seen how good is Big Baby's chin, you know? Man, I wish he wouldn't have got in that trouble that he got into where we would have saw him face AJ, Reggie. I really wanted to see that fight with he and AJ. Talking about Big Baby and AJ.
Oh, yeah, the drug, but that boy can't stay off them pills.
Yeah, man. Rosai says, nobody cuts corners in training like Dillian White. That's a microphone drop right there. That's a microphone drop right there. So, with that, Reggie, you want to go ahead and get everybody your final thoughts and everything as we wrap this one up for this evening?
Yeah, man, another good day of some boxing to fill in for what was messed over by the druggy king, Tyson Fury, messing off something that was supposed to be epic occurring today, but we got Joe Joyce to fill in and bring in pretty good, very good performance in his victory over Carlos TAKAM. Looking forward to see what else we get here in this boxing year, man, which is put on some pretty good fight events. But man, thank y'all for coming through, man, and we'll catch you guys on the next one, man. Peace.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it's been another great post-fight show, you know, albeit an abbreviated one because we only did the one fight, which I think was the one that mattered. We were going to talk about something even more appealing had the heavyweight fight taking place between Fury and Wilder. It still stings people that fight, you know, won't happen, you know. And I'm sorry, Reggie. I'll say it on the air right now that I don't think the fight is going to happen at all. I really don't. I think this guy is going to take what the judge stated as his opportunity to leave the sport. He'll leave for a duration, and then he'll come back and fight someone else or whatever. But he's going to treat Wilder just like he treated Klitschko in their second go-round, where he just made sure he avoided it. And he's going to do that here. The only thing I hope is that this arbitration judge has put some irons in the fire that in the event that he doesn't opt to face Wilder for the third fight and opts to retire, that there's still a penalty that'll be coming along with that. See, that's something that has not been disclosed, but I would believe, because, you know, these judges can be very judicious in penance and penalties. So it's like, I don't know that, especially since he's living in the U.S., you shouldn't get to parade around and rub somebody's face in the mess, so to speak, after you've done a number on them. Legally, there should be some compensation, and I think that it should hit them hard and crippling. It should be a crippling situation, and we know that sometimes when you're dealing with those courts, man, they can come down hard if they want to. So we'll see. But I want to say thanks to everybody that's out there. You guys smash that like button, show a lot of support and love, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. This has been Stormy B Man and Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens and the post-fight show, where we did a post-fight review of Joe Joyce against Carlos TAKAM. Peace to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll catch you on the next one.